Good morning and welcome. It is 8:30. It is the 22nd day of August 2021. I am your grumpy guide to all things gaming, the OGGM. We're on day 21 of RPG A Day 2021. Every day for the month of August, we take a look at these prompts provided for us by autocratic.com and then try and interpret them and to how that word inspires us in regards to the tabletop role-playing game hobby. And today's word is substitute. Substitute. Thus the picture of the Legion of Substitute Heroes in front of you from DC Comics, because today's word is substitute. And I'm not quite sure what I'm supposed to do with that word. You're talking about substituting rules, substituting races, substituting games, substituting players. Yeah, let's do that one. Substituting when a player doesn't show up. How do you deal with that scenario? You're running your game, you're 2, 3, 5, 10 games in, and Joe says he can't make it. If you're lucky, actually, Joe lets you know ahead of time he can't make it. More often than not, Joe just doesn't show and doesn't tell you. And you're like waiting, going, Joe? Steve? Susan? So let's say you're running your game 2, 3, 5 days in and Susan doesn't show. Hopefully she's actually let you know that she's not going to show. How do you deal with this situation? Do you let the game keep going and just say, oh, Susan's character's in the back? But what if, during that scenario, something happens and you're in a situation where well, your character, this happened because we kept going and, we got captured or a rock fell on us and Susan's like, well, no, I wasn't here, so that's not fair. Or, what if you substitute and say, okay, since Steve can't make it this week, Fred, you get to run Steve's character. And Fred's running Steve's character and something happens and then Steve comes back the next week and it's like, what do you mean my character is now a rutabaga? And they're like, well, this happened and polymorph in a trap. And then Steve's like, you know what, Fred, my character wouldn't have done that. And he wouldn't have done that. I left you a very specific instructions. So yeah, that didn't happen. DM, my character is not half a rutabaga because there's no way my character would have done that. And you know that. Do you substitute out and say, okay, since Fred can't make it this week, Susan, you're going to run one shot if because you've been talking about wanting to run a one shot. Here's a perfect time. And Susan's like, oh yeah, awesome. And this is great because it gives the DM a chance to play. It gives somebody else a chance to run. It gives a break in the game. You're substituting, you're replacing. But then let's say at the end of that, when everybody's like, wow, Susan's game was great. I really love these characters. I want to play them again next week. And then the DM's like, well, but, or the player that was missing comes back and here he's like, what did I miss? And they're like, oh, Susan ran this awesome game, dude. I can't wait to get back to it. I really fell in love with this character. And that guy's like, oh, well, that sounds great. And then everybody's like, oh, but yeah, we're going back to Steve's game, so we're not going to revisit Susan's game for a while. Yeah, substituting, if somebody doesn't show up, there's a lot of ways to do it. But are any of them really is there a best way? I don't know. Do you just cancel the game for a week and say, look, Susan can't make it, so, let's just take a week off. Or Susan can't make it, let's play a board game. And that's probably the best solution because it gives everybody, including the DM, a break from the game. And it allows you to sort of recharge, reset. It allows you to sort of just be a normal social group, if there is such a thing in our hobby, and just, sit around a table for a couple hours and play Settlers of Catan or, History on Haunted Hill or Risk or, God help us, Monopoly or, Carcassonne. And, you've got 4 hours of just being a group playing a game against each other or cooperatively. The DM gets to interact. The DM gets a break. Everybody gets a break. And it's a great way to sort of recharge, just sort of bullshit, hash out ideas, talk about the game without actually being in the game. And that way, when Susan comes back, she didn't miss anything. Or Fred's like, what did you guys do last week? Well, I was, taking care of my sister. And they're like, oh, we took a break and just played a game of Hill Quest and capture the tomato. And he's like, oh, man, I'm sorry I missed that. That sounds fun. But yeah, let's get back to the game. So that's a great way. And of course, one of the best substitutes, and this is actually how this all began, Magic the Gathering. You could just play Magic the Gathering a couple rounds, if you know, and then you kind of go and remember how Magic the Gathering all started, and you're like, hey, remember when Magic the Gathering was just a substitute game that Garfield made up using 3x5 cards to play when the DM was late or on the days when somebody didn't show up? I'm sure he never had any idea of how big it was going to get. It was just a one-off. It was a thing that he made to pass time with cards that were sort of based upon everything that was going on in the game. And he's like, hey, you know what? DM's running late. Susan can't make it this week. Why don't we just play my, this little card game I made up, and maybe a game of Monopoly, or, it's funny how that's how Magic started, and now Magic has surpassed Dungeons and Dragons, when originally it was just started to be something to do because you couldn't play Dungeons and Dragons right there. So yeah, I guess the best way to substitute if a player can't make it or the DM can't make it is maybe just use that week to either take a break or, get together and do something like bowling, play a board game, go see a movie, go look at art, do something to get out of the rut of the game, give the DM a week to, really recharge and have a chance to just be part of the social group, because, he's sort of separate when the game's going on, because he's the DM. So maybe there's aspects of the group that the DM's missing out on, that a night, going bowling or miniature golfing or playing a game of Carcassonne or Magic the Gathering experience that might give him that he normally couldn't get because he's always running. So substituting, what do you do if your player doesn't show up? Now, most of the solutions usually end up with a not happy scenario in some form or another, but maybe just substituting that game night for a board game night, or a bowling night, or a movie night, or just sit around and eat nachos and talk like humans and discuss the game and discuss issues and discuss, the DM gets to be part of the social instead of whatever. Maybe that's the best way to substitute. I don't know. What do you think? You tell me. What is your favorite way of substituting if somebody doesn't show up for this week's game? And remember, there's no right or wrong answer as far as I know. I'm not trying to upset anybody. I'm not trying to say I'm right and you're wrong, so don't come off all like, oh, blah, 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 like some people did yesterday. Just theory crafting, just tossing out ideas. If you don't like them, that's fine. Agree to disagree. I'm open to your opinion as long as it's not hostile. Till next time, I have your Grumpy Guide to all things gaming. If you appreciate this content, let me know and subscribe. If you haven't subscribed yet, please help me reach 1,000 subs. And I will talk to you later. Now I'm going to go substitute this for something to drink. Get off my land.